Hi, my name is Melody Johnson, and for this week, I chose the labeling theory. Let's get right into it. So, the formation of this theory can be traced all the way back to Durkheim and his views and his concepts about societal norms and values, though it became more prevalent in the 1960s. And just as stated in the textbook, it really is just a reinforced version of Mr. Mead, this gentleman's here, concept of symbolic interactionalism. A man who went by the name Howard S. Becker wrote a pivotal book called The Outsiders that heavily influenced the theory, the labeling theory, as to how it is today. So major tenets. What is symbolic interactionalism? And it really is divided into two parts, interaction and symbolic. So an interaction is the interaction between the so-called deviant and the conventional average persons. So, assuming that you and me are not deviants, we are considered the conventional average persons. So as for application, we can imagine witnessing someone pick up a nickel off of a convenience store's floor. The interaction is simply us witnessing them pick it up. The symbolic, which is the interaction, though its meaning being determined by one of us or both of us, this is whenever it gets subjective. The symbolic is basically us simply determining this said action with our reactions. So you could deem this person picking up the nickel as harmless, though I could deem it as deviant. Though it really is subjective and it really varies to person, but that is simply, the purpose of the labeling theory. And to label theorists, who labels who? To labeling theorists, they consider persons who enforce and promote the law as well as conventional morality as prime examples for labelers. So, for example, it would be cops, law enforcers, judges, social control workers, and etc. And those they label would be criminals, murderers, robbers, mentally ill patients, drug addicts, and etc. Another tenet, which is consequences of labeling. So for the labeled, and these are our authors here, and they really broke down what the consequences of being labeled is. One of the consequences would be a child. A child would be labeled once deviant, and just this interaction alone could possibly interfere with their further development later on in their life. Just once being called a deviant, they could see themselves as deviant, and that would then change their view and their decisions from that point on. And they kind of broke it down, the steps of labeling into two parts: primary deviation and secondary deviation. So primary is committing deviance, but it is not affecting your self-conscious. So let's do the same example, or let's do the same application, just in a different narrative. So let's say this child, in the very beginning, this child picks up the nickel this time. And, it doesn't affect their consciousness. They don't know, and yet a guardian or their parent who has a pretty, hopefully a grasp on the social norms would tell the child, no, don't do that. We should return this nickel to the clerk just in case, So in a nutshell, it is this subject, or the child in this case, doesn't know that what they're doing could be considered deviant, yet other outside forces, their parent or society, is labeled so as deviant. The secondary deviation, the second part, is the repetition of deviance to the point where you identify yourself as a deviant. So secondary deviance for this child would be them neglecting what their parent or said guardian has suggested or told them to do, and picking up nickels, picking up valuable items, picking up cash from anywhere, anyone, is deviant, and they know it, to the point where they themselves acknowledge that they are deviants, or in this case, a thief. So, for the consequences of labeling isn't really as harmful as it could be for those who are labeled. Those who are labeling, the consequences for them are simply them deeming what is evil or deviance. So the critiques at this point is one, it fails to address the causation for social deviance. It tells us how we label deviance, but not how it's caused. And it also fails to support that just simply calling an individual deviant will affect their future of deviance. And also, a critique would be that something could be done, a deviant act could be done in secrecy, though it can't be called deviant since it is unknown to others. So I'm running on time right now. So yeah, that is my presentation and of the labeling theory. And thank you so much for listening.